I think there's another story, because I've heard it in previous programs, about something someone was in a nest.
Yes.
And you spent like 3 days there or more.
10 days.
10 days, okay. Yeah. Focusing with that, right? So now we're starting to using the word focusing, but basically what we mean is connecting at this level. We're going to keep it like that.
Yeah.
Can you please share that one?
Yeah. So that was another thing. We were in Nova Scotia one day.
Yeah, it's the first year you brought me to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it was a few years back. And we'd been with a group of people at a certain place. And we had another week or 2 weeks there. Yeah, we had another 2 weeks there. And we had no idea where we were going to go. But we said, well, we're going to go to this, we drove to this tourist information place, and we just sensed into the different offerings there. And all of a sudden we saw this bed and breakfast announced. And I really do not like bed and breakfast. I do not like them at all. And yet that one, it was called Lions Gate. It doesn't exist anymore. It really spoke to me. I had no idea where it was, so we went to this whole new region of Nova Scotia we'd never been to.
And this is another example of something calling to us. It really like spoke to her, just stood out like a bright light.
And it was extraordinary because we weren't looking for a bed and breakfast. We were looking for, but it was in wild nature. It was a very special place. It didn't last for long. We get there and we had a real connection to the man. The man was a 75-year-old man that had the place. But the thing is, his backyard was a place in nature, straight on near the Bay of Fundy, and miles. And there was no other houses. He was the only house there. So it told us to stay there at first it was 2 or 3 days, but the first night there it said, no, we're going to stay there more. So we went out the first day, out into his backyard, which was a huge beach onto the ocean.
With cliffs coming up on the side.
Everywhere there's cliffs, that's why there's no house. His was the only house that was not on a cliff. It was down lower. All the rest, there's a few houses, they're high up on cliffs. So it's big cliffs there in that region. And the first day we got there, we'd been there for quite a while without noticing. All of a sudden there was a bald eagle. It was coming right beside us. So we looked up, we hadn't seen, right beside where we had decided we were going to spend our days meditating, focusing, singing, talking, laughing. Right there in our meditation spot, there was a big eagle's nest. So the mother would go back and forth, both of them, the male and the female. The females were much bigger than the male. They were coming back and forth. It was beautiful days. And we were there for how many days before we were focusing, and I had a lot of physical symptoms at that point that I wanted healing with. So they were very life-altering symptoms. They were making me unable to work. I was very sick. Okay? So that was our point, was that we wanted to do some focusing and inquire into what was happening in my body, what did I need what kind of treatment did I need, how did I need to take care of myself, what was going to happen with that. So then, you want to take it from there? Like the third
Well, I can just, what happened, the adults were coming back and forth, but they had an infant in the nest. And so they were feeding the infant. So they would take turns going out and bringing food back for the young one. And while we were there, we could actually see it getting bigger. And we'd see it sitting there with its head out of the nest and that. And one day, we noticed that the parents weren't there, neither one. And the infant was up there.
We have to say that we were there from 5 or 6 in the morning till 10 every night. Like that's where we lived. Okay. We just went inside once in a while to sleep.
Yeah. And so we noticed that the infant was there and was crying out, making calls like, where are you guys? I'm hungry.
It was also 32 degrees and sunny with no clouds for many days in a row. It was hot.
So that day, that first day, we noticed that, but then the second day, it was the same thing. The adults still didn't come. Third day, same thing. And the infants, the young one is starting to get weaker. And we could see like an adult coming and flying, but watching from a distance, landing on another tree farther away and just watching the infant, but not coming to it.
Yeah, it was the mother because it was the bigger one. And the third day, we couldn't hear her at all, actually. So I was really upset. You were inside talking to the man that owned the place,
Yeah.
and I went to go get you, and I was having an emotional fit at that point. I was like, she's just letting her die. I couldn't believe it. So couldn't hear the birds. So I said, well, either they came and took her and brought her somewhere, or she's dead. So, but I was very emotionally upset at that
And
point.
I was
so-
still disconnected
yeah,
back then. Not as much. I mean, mentally, I got the thing, but I was interested in talking to this guy, and I
Yeah.
didn't really feel like going out there.
So I asked him if he could come because I wanted support. I wanted to process this in my body because it was bringing up a lot. So I did process, not long, a while, and it brought up my childhood again and being abandoned and not having a mother to take care of you. So I had a lot of emotions that came up around it, which I accompanied. And then maybe half an hour later, Tosha was there, and it just instinctively told me, well, the eagle can live or die. That's not really any of your business. You need to detach from that scenario. But you can offer, not from a place of desperation and having to hold on to the baby eagle's life, but from a place of love. So I connected with myself, and it told me to offer him what I developed in my life, going through what I went through, not having parents, which was resilience, autonomy, strength. And so I just took that energy, I opened up my heart, and I sent it for what? Not long. How long was that? I did that.
Half an hour or so.
Half an hour or so. And we weren't attached to what it would do. It was just like, well, whether you live or die, you know, that's what nature told me to do. It said, just share what your strengths. And then what happened?
Well, then the little one got up and left the nest.
We didn't even know if it was in the nest. It got up.
And it first of all flew out over us and did a little circle, and then flew out over the water looking for food. And
We never saw the parents again. We stayed there another 5 days,
yeah,
and she would go, I call her she, but go back and forth. So
but she was autonomous then.
So she was like melding her experience with my experience, and she really helped me heal that. I probably wouldn't have touched the depth of the pain that I touched without having those big emotions come up around her mother abandoning her, well, her parents abandoning her.
So in a way, reflected in her experience, you were able to commune with the parts of you that had that experience,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that you reflected, right?
Yeah.
On hers, okay. And I'm wondering right now, independent of the fact that maybe the parents were simply aware that the baby was ready and they were waiting,
Yeah.
independently of that, what you experienced there to you was intimately related to what you were seeing in hers, right? In her
Exactly.
experience.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what matters, right? Because we could go into, oh, that was just a coincidence, the baby was ready, parents knew it, they were waiting for it to fly, you're just making this up in a way, right?
Yes.
But regardless of that, what counts and where we put our attention, at least me, I'm going to speak for myself, and you please tell me if this resonates or not, is in what happens to me in that experience, in that moment.
Yeah. And so that brings up the whole issue about coincidences, and I don't believe in coincidences myself, but if you believe in it, you can believe in it as long as you need to. But the fact that after 20 minutes of me sending her my resilience, after 3 days, because it had been 3 days, she ate or drunk water
Yeah.
in 35 degrees under the sun,
Yeah.
you know. And those 3 days I was so upset that I slept there. I didn't go back in to sleep. Because I was like, I want to be there if they show up. I want to know what's going to happen. I was too much melded with that experience. So it doesn't really matter though if it's a coincidence or not. What matters is that I felt loved and helped by the eagle because she helped me touch something that was very hard for me to touch by myself. And that in that moment, all three of us were in joy and communion, you know. So it doesn't matter really, like you
Yeah.
say, your interpretation of what your story is about it. It's your inner experience
Exactly.
that's important,
Exactly.
you know. So, you know, she could have died 10 minutes after that happened. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so could have I. But what's important is the experience you're having in that moment and how it changes you, what it brings to you, and the gratitude and celebration that it brings.
And I think that's another level of integration, right?
Yeah.
Because we could go back to, oh, it was a coincidence or whatever, or trying to understand it here.
Yeah.
But we also have the choice of taking it further into this very deep and personal, I think, experience of communion again with another.
And a
And
sense of
that-
gratitude for it.
And the
The
gratitude
gratitude that comes
to
with
being so
Yeah.
connected. Because obviously everyone has doubt. For years things like this happened to me and I had doubt.
Uh-huh.
But if I have doubt, I ask for another sign.
Okay.
So when we came back, I had doubt. I said, whoa, that was too mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing for me. I had some parts that were like, you know, I've had nature connection in different levels, but it was mind-blowing. So when I came back, I asked, I've lived here, where we've lived, and for 35 years, I've never seen a bald eagle once.
Okay.
So when we came back, remember what happened? We were driving with someone that was very upset on the outer route around here.
Oh, yeah.
And that person was very down and had no reason for living. It was a big emotional fit. We stopped the car. We were listening to the person, and what happened at that point, I was really upset too because it was someone in my family. And so we kind of did an empathy circle with the person. We stopped by the side of the outer route, and that was the only other time I saw a bald eagle here. So that was a bald eagle that happened in Nova Scotia. Okay, and it really helped the person because the person felt really connected to birds of all kinds. So I asked for help, and a bald eagle came
Yeah.
and sat above the branch, above where we stopped, at the embranchement of the outer route, okay, the exit of the outer route. And we all stayed there together for how long? An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? And the eagle was there. We have a film. The person was so touched that they filmed it with their camera. And she stayed there the whole time until we got to some kind of resolution. And
Yeah,
we
until the
person
energy
home.
shifted, yeah.
We drove the person home,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, that helped my parts that were in doubt, because of course we'll have parts that were in
Yeah, yeah.
doubt and want to understand deeper.
Yeah. Now I have the shivers again. And in what you just shared here, there is something that for me is like a seal, okay, of the
Yeah.
experience. Is that moment of resolution. Something happens to us that it shifts, and
Yeah.
only we know it. So again, it has our name on it, right?
Yeah.
And the gratitude piece. That is undeniable, right? Even if 30 minutes later we are in doubt,
Yeah,
I make it a point to, that was real, that was true, I can stay there, and I tasted it, I know what it tastes like, that was real.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
yeah.
Okay, Tosha, I think you have something to say? Maybe not?
No, not right now. I did way back there, but
I think we could end this piece.
It is
soon.
coming to an end, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So today, 2022, June or August, why is this important? Why do you think? Because part of this, the purpose of this video is sharing, so that people know that it exists, first of all, they feel inspired, and in a way I like to use the word to normalize it, right? This is
Yeah.
as normal as sleeping and eating and
yeah.
walking. So we want to do that. Why? Why today? Why is it so important for us as a species, as a humanity, as as individuals as well?
Well, there's so many levels that it's important, and the way that we live on the earth, and the way that our relationship with the earth and with what we call natural resources. And when you look at the word, they are our natural resources.
Yeah.
It's just that we look at it something outside of ourselves. You know,
To
a
be
tree
exploited.
is something to exploit. How much is that tree worth? How much is that water worth?
So
So
beautiful.
yeah, just that whole thing of there's me and there's the environment.
Yeah.
And I am who I am, even if I'm in a different environment. That's only a belief also. Maybe I'm a complete different person if I live in Costa Rica, or a complete different person if I live in Spain, or if I live in Australia. How do I know that I'm always me? To me, the whole relation with what we call the environment it's very relational. There's a relation that's happening all the time.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I am who I am in that piece of land.
For sure.
That piece of land brings out something in me, like when I'm in Nova Scotia, I am different than when I'm in Quebec.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing about relationship, why is it important? Because it changes the way we treat everything. Treat other human beings, the way we treat nature, the way we use products, the way we buy things. So it changes the whole game of how we live. It brings us, first of all, much more joy and connection in the moment rather than waiting for a vacation for when I can have fun 2 weeks during my summer holidays. It makes you have that ability to have enjoyment, happiness, joy, peace in the moment with whatever's surrounding you. But it also changes the way we look at things. So rather than looking from our heads as there's me and then there's my scenery, I'm not separated from where I am. And so, like I said before, the way I treat the earth, the way I'm in relationship when I take a shower, rather than just I'm taking a shower because I'm going to the next moment. But I'm taking a shower and I'm in communion with the water. I don't know if I'll ever have a shower again, right? So that kind of mindset that we seem to have in the prevalent community around things are there to be used gets changed into there's me and there's everything else, and we have a relationship. And so what people call in the environment and sustainability is also a mental concept. We become sustainability. We have a relationship with everything around us, so it'll change everything, basically. And then there's a whole level of healing and plants, using plants to heal us, to help our nervous systems, to help our trauma. I mean, it changes everything when I work with clients that have taken pills because that's what they needed to go through at that moment. They couldn't deal with their trauma. But when they want to stop taking their pills, there's plants that they can be in relationship with that will help them come back to who they really are, because there's usually side effects when they're taking pills that they don't really like. So there's so many different levels.
But I like that. In a nutshell, why is it important? Because it changes everything.
Yeah.
Because it changes everything. So an invitation you would like to share with people that are watching this video? Any last words? What's there for you as a way of saying goodbye?
I would suggest that take Gina's programs. It's been a big shift in my life. Just what she's brought to my life, focusing, the way she's integrated nonviolent communication, plants and herbalism and so many other things. It's made a big difference in my life. And come share it with us.
Yeah, whether it's with me or with anybody else, it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
to me. What matters most to me is that people
Yeah.
really connect to their natural resources. To find a way, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, find a way, but a concrete way, not a mental concept, but a concrete, grounded, somatic experience way of being who you really are, of expanding and understanding that you have a lot of latent abilities that are in the shadow or exiled, and that you're much more than you think you are in the moment. And that the more you become yourself, the more life is like a game to be celebrated rather than a thing to get through. And that your need for security or your need for love is just always ongoingly more and more flowering in your system. And so less conflict in relationships, because that's what I notice, that gets us down, is that when we're not getting along, people, and there's a lot of conflict in our relationships and our families, and we don't know how to get through it, that's what takes away our energy. So we really encourage people to find ways to support yourself, to look at the meaning of the conflicts you're having, of the relationships you're having, and to live that a completely different way, rather than just identifying with, well, it's not going well, so there's something wrong, or, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with my relationships, there's something wrong with others. Looking at that full somatic way of what is this experience bringing up in me to heal, to transform, to become more of who I am. That way of living.
I have a friend who asks the question, if you had deliberately created this to learn something, what would it be?
Exactly.
And I find it such a light and at the same time, deepening invitation, yeah. So you're inviting for meaning, what's the meaning, and concrete ways to connect with our resources. And to me, it touches on celebration.
Yeah.
Like Joanna Macy's, it's the first step. And I also know that there is a word, maybe you know this word, it's thank you, but it means the thing that precedes every other thing. And so maybe we can say goodbye and invite people that watch this video to take a few moments to breathe and celebrate something, whether it is in them or in people around them or in what we call the nature. Would that be a good way? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
And take a few moments to breathe and celebrate that. Thank you very much, Gina Silua. Thank you very much, Tosha.
Thank you, Juan Carlos.
Yay.
Yes, until we meet again for another one of these ones, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.